Rajesh. So I am audible. Today I have been asked to speak here, which I consider it as a great opportunity, blessing of. So what I thought of doing for next, say, 30 minutes or so, I will talk about this book, my experiences of studying this book of Swami, Science of Bhagavad Gita. So, the Bhagavad Gita book, this is kind of, some people would have heard me speaking about my experiences earlier with me coming to this ashram. So it is a talk of continuing from there. So this is a continuation of how I continued my sadhana, or how I got this upadesha from Guru. So I came here and started trying to understand, read Guru's autobiography, then sadhana and meditation, then came here, spoke to him, said that I have a lot of questions and I don't know how to ask questions, etc. Then Swami said he offered me two books. One is that Know Your Reality, and the second one is the Science of Bhagavad Gita. So by that time, my way of what I mean sadhana is something like do something here, do one meditation here, do one japa there, do some vicharana there and discuss with people, debate with people, and come out with some conclusions which are again partial. So this is the standard thing I used to do. I don't know, most of the jnana yogis or most of the people trying to do on the jnana is more or less similar. So the efforts are all fragmented. Typically what used to happen is, you do an amount of yoga, sit in asana, do some pranayama, do some vichara, atma vichara, swadhyaya, then go read something, a book. That would be Bhagavad Gita. So what happens is, we read, study Bhagavad Gita, we get one opinion from somebody. So with all those things, finally there is no clarity. Then I got this book. So what I'll underline some of the things when I am reading this. I will read out and explain the importance of that one statement what Swami made in this book, how it helps. So if we take this book and start reading the preface, the very beginning of the Bhagavad Gita's preface, in the third page we find a paragraph. I'll read that paragraph. Nevertheless, this book, I hope, will narrow the gap between the ancient wisdom and the modern scientific philosophy, and help those wavering on the path due to apparent anomaly between the science and religion to set their mind firmly on the truth. So that is the paragraph I want to start my this thing. The importance of studying something which has a definitive meaning, a definitive realization ingrained in it. So this book is not another bhashya, another explanation of Bhagavad Gita. So there are several explanations. Then eventually I have also studied the Bhagavad Gita, the bhashya of Shankaracharya. Shankaracharya also mentions in the very beginning of the book, he states, there are so many meanings that have been created by several scholars for the 700 slokas written in the Bhagavad Gita. So what happens is, anekarthas, there are multiple meanings, multiple debates and discussions which is not leading to upliftment of the seeker. So arthanirtharanartham, for the sake of making the meaning clear, I am making this effort of writing this bhashya. This is what Shankaracharya says when he is attempting to write the bhashya. So same way, when Swami said that wavering is the double underline I am talking about, that was my state. At that time I took this, I came to this ashram, got this book from the Guru's hands. So, what it gives, why should we study? What is Jnana Yoga? What is Gita Jnana Yajnam or Gita Jnana Yoga? Is Bhagavan Sri Krishna, Jagat Guru, keeping Arjuna as a Nimittam Bhava Sarvesachim, like he is keeping just as an instrument in front of him. He has re-established the Brahma Vidyayam of several Brahma Vidyas. So reach the Parabrahman, there are multiple Vidyas are there. Brahma Vidyayam. In that, one of the Shastra is known as Yoga Shastra. In Yoga Shastra, then there are several yogas. All these yogas are combined together into multiple paths. And they have been re-established by Krishna Paramatma, as he said in the 4th Adhyaya. In the 4th Adhyaya, he only said, I said this in the beginning of the time to Vivaswan, he said to Manu, Manu to Ikshvaku, Ikshvaku to Rajarshis. So that is the Evam Parampara Praptam. So there is a lot of Parampara, means this Vidya came in succession from Guru to Sishya, and like that. It is not randomly studied by people here and there, randomly established meanings and all. But over a period of time, what has happened, because of the Kama and Moha of these Rajarshis who are supposed to follow this Bhagavad Gita, are slowly started drifting away from the yoga. So the Nashta, yoga has become Nashta. It has lost in the time. So it is the very nature of time. The nature of time, time builds things, time loses things also. So this teaching has been lost over the time. And it has been re-established by none other than Jagat Guru Sri Krishna, which has been Pardhaya Pradipodita Bhagavata Narayana Swayam. Then comes second Jagat Guru Vyasena Gradhidam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam. Then it has been explained by Sankara Bhagavad Padacharya, and then it reached all of us through this one scientific explanation. So that is my first point which I wanted to establish, saying that this importance of this science of Bhagavad Gita is definitely to bring that gap, and it is modern educated person like me and most of us here, probably we are educated in a modern English method of questioning everything, scientific everything, no shraddha. So no, because there are certain things which cannot be experimented, there is no way to establish Shraddha. So it becomes a very difficult proposition to move forward in anything called yoga. Because everybody says, okay, breathe in, breathe out, that is one pranayama, give some 4, 3, 2, some count this here and there, that is pranayama. Nothing is actually pranayama. Pranayama is explained by Bhagavan here, that is what is pranayama. Maybe next very authoritative book on this is Patanjali Yoga Shastra. So we have to either refer to this yoga or Patanjali's yoga if we really wanted to learn anything, or most easiest is approach Guru. Approach Guru, surrender to the Guru, you will get what yoga is needed. Okay. So the second point I wanted to establish in the last talk, when I have done here also, I have said, at the end of the first chapter, Swami makes a wonderful statement, because the first chapter is Arjuna Vishada Yoga, all of us know, right? So Arjuna Vishada Yoga, there is not even a single word spoken by Bhagavan. Bhagavan has not spoken a single statement, not a single sound is there from him. Everything is a description of the army that side, army this side, they are fighting. Arjuna wants to go, stand in the middle and see. And Jagat Guru takes him to the in front of Bhishma and Drona, makes him stand there, and looking at them, Arjuna loses all his confidence. He is taken over by the Moha. So the whole thing starts as Soka and Moha takes over in some way or the other. And in the chapter, the 27th page, if we refer to this page, there is a simple one paragraph is there. So Arjuna has to fight. This must have been the grand universal plan of Bhagavan. Whether or not Arjuna fought, the events will indirectly they are eternal three-dimensional framework of time, space, and causation. So we have to keep this time, space, and causation. These are the three things which make up this whole world. And Bhagavad Gita continuously talks about only those three things. If we try and understand, realize the nature of the time, nature of space, nature of causation. Therefore, to talk of changing the future is as much nonsense as it is to talk of changing the past. So this one statement, the same thing goes into again Akshara Parabrahma Yoga. Guru again goes and explains in the 8th chapter, Akshara Brahma Yoga. There is another discussion which comes on this same thing. I want to just connect to that because the importance of studying again and connect this. This is a very important point. Which Then again in page number 277, if we go, there is a talk about Newtonian physics. This is the 17th verse of the 18th sloka, which talks about the yugas and times and the nature of time again. So there is again and again this discussion keeps coming about the time, how cyclical time is, how many yugas are there. There is again, but both past and future are spread out evenly, inseparably with the space. Evenly and inseparably with the space in a multidimensional network. Changing the future then is as much impossible as it is to change the past. So again discussion goes there. So what is this point I wanted to establish? One, in the chapter 1, it is nothing is spoken by this thing, but the Shoka and Moha have come. It has been experienced by the seeker or whoever is seeking because of that confusion. What is the confusion? Confusion, if everything is going fine, no confusion, no guru, no yoga. People are going behind, everything happening fine. But there is something which you want to do and at the same time you don't want to do. That is, you have to fight the war to win. But if I fight the war, what happens is I will be killing all my friends, relatives, everything, doing papam, I will be attacking the dharma will go away. So I think I am doing something. So basically in the time I am doing something which is in friction with what I want to do. So I have Sokam. The definition of this Sokam and Moham. So it's like Asochanam Sochastam. The whole teaching starts with you are worrying about something which should not be worried. And finally, Moksha Ishyami Masucha. Bhagavad Gita ends with Sarvadharman Parijajya Mamekam Saranam Praja Hantva Sarva Papebhyo Moksha Ishyami Masucha. So basically the whole of Bhagavad Gita teaching is about Moha and Soka. Dealing with Moha and Soka. So to establish this three-dimensional framework, space, time and causation. In that, it is very interesting to see we can't define the time without reference to space and causation. Or we can't define the causation without referring to time and space. Or we can't define the space without referring to time and causation. Means these three elements are three gunas, basically all three, several threes are described. In that, the core of it, again and again, Kala, I am Kala. Vishnu keeps saying, who are you? I am the time. And again says, who are you? Kalosmin Lokakshayurat Pravruddho. Again, after showing himself to Arjuna, again he says, I am the time. Then again, time and again he establishes himself saying that I am the time. I am the time. I am the nature of time. You know me, you will reach me. So what is this time? So biggest problem of this causation, karma. All the karma is about causation. Causation means there is something in the past, there is something to be in the future. So I wanted to, the ego, ahankara. I comes in, I want to change something. This should not have happened like that. So I want to correct something. So basically all the karma comes from either I want to lose something or I want to gain something. Beyond that, what naturally should come according to the God's divine plan called time. Time itself is God's divine plan. So in the first Adhyaya, Swami establishes to us that even though not even a single word is spoken, but what he did there, taking Arjuna in front of Bhishma and Drona and stopping. Arjuna said, "Oh, who is that?" He is very confident of winning the war. Arjuna, when he entered the battlefield, he said, "Kaimaya sahayothavyam." Who are there on the other side? I want to have a look once. Take me senayor abhayor madhye ratham stapaya me Arjuna. So Guru is already directing. Guru is there in the story. He didn't speak a word. But what he did, he took him and put him in front of this Bhishma Drona. Looking at them, then this Soga Mohas have come. So actually in one way, Guru has induced Soga and Moha in the Arjuna at that point in time. My understanding. So there is this Soga and Moha has to come in to the whole story. If it is not there, if I say, I am all good, I am all fine, I still want to know the reality. There is no experience, there is no sincerity, there is no emotion to do the sadhana. Sadhana can be done with an emotion saying, yes, I am in trouble, I need to know, I don't know what to do. That's why I need to get the right direction, dharma. What is the dharma? So Dharma Kshetra, Kurukshetra. Dharma Kshetra is the righteous judgment. Guru says in this book. So very beginning, Dharma Kshetra, Kurukshetra, when it comes, he says, what is Dharma Kshetra? Kshetra where right judgment is taken. What is Kurukshetra? Where the right action is performed. So judgment and action. Judgment comes, action comes next. So this goes in a loop. So, what is the greatest Vishada Yoga starting? What is Guru's teaching there? This, he makes it Arjuna to realize that he has to approach a Guru. So, basically in the first chapter, the end, he says, Vishada Yoga, Guru concludes that, saying that, okay, Arjuna's agony, dejection and subsequent sitting at the feet of Bhagavan in submission for guidance makes the union, bracket yoga, of disciple with Guru. That's why this Vishada Yoga, Vishada Upanishad, that Shat Upanishad he explains there and he says this is a yoga. So it should be 18 yogas. Arjuna Vishada Yoga should be one of the yogas of Brahmavidya. Then only it is there in this Brahmavidyayam Yoga Shastra, Krishna Arjuna Samvade in this book. Okay, so this is the second point. So on the preface, because of this wavering nature of the individual, which need to be brought together between the science and this. So later at some point in time, maybe, I studied this book in 4 weeks. When on 3rd of September 2007, I got this book from the hands of Guru. 1st of October 2007, I completed studying. In between, the Chaturthi came, that is Ganapati's festival. On that I was at the end of 7th chapter on the Vinayaka Chaturthi day. And I continued studying and then I came back to Guru. So that is a different story. So this reading, I never say that I have read, I understood this book. That reading is the beginning. Then there goes into this deep study of this work. So what are these yogas? Do I need all these yogas? What should I understand? So when I start with my Soga Moha, is somewhat similar to what is the Soga Moha of Arjuna. But not necessarily all the Soga Moha of the world. But Bhagavan is taking this opportunity and he is actually describing everything. Then he goes into the Sankhya Yoga, describes all the yoga, basically. The summary of the Yoga Shastra is there in the Sankhya Yoga. In that there is karma is there, Bhakti is there, Raja Yoga is there to an extent, Jnana Yoga is there because Sankhya Yoga is predominantly Jnana Yoga. And what actually I like, the scientific nature again, goes again and again, Guru keeps establishing two things. In these cycles, whatever time cycles that are happening, these cycles are similar to the scientific cycles of water cycle, carbon cycle. Again, all of us, we read that 18th chapter of Guru's autobiography. Guru's autobiography, in his deep experience of that reality, there are two equations which have come. All are familiar, but I'll still touch. One is the carbon equation. What that equation is saying is, in the light, in the presence of sunlight, the carbon and hydrogen, water are joining together forming carbohydrates, which is called food, which is the plant kingdom which is sitting outside. The second equation, which talks, is this food is consumed by the individual. Then again, 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Aham Vaishwanaro Bhutva Praninam Dehamasrita Pranapan Samayuktaha Vachami Annam Chaturvidham. So he, God, sits inside as our metabolism capability. Guru very clearly had, very wonderfully explains in the 15th chapter. We go to this Aham Vaishwanaro Bhutva. In that place in this book, there is a wonderful explanation of this. So neither we are doing food creation, because in sun's light, the Prakriti's carbon and hydrogen, which we can consider it as some gunas are combined, getting combined in the sattva gunas nature, and the food is being prepared. That food is being consumed in the animal body. All animal bodies, basically we are all belonging to that animal kingdom. We can't directly eat the sunlight. There are yogas, there are yogis who do that. We are not going to them. General discussion for all of us, we can't eat. So we eat this food. Then digest this food. Again, the digestion is not in our control. There is no role of ahankara or the ego, either in creating that or in this. But ahankara assumes ahankara vimudhatma karta ahamiti manyate. So I says, I have sown all these seeds, I have grown these plants, I have taken the fruit, I have created this wonderful dish, I am eating it, I am getting the energy out of it, I am doing all these things, I am winning, I am losing. So in this natural cycle of food is being produced and food is being consumed and it is going in a cycle, sama, equally, in the Prakriti's nature, the ignorant individual is getting into thinking that, assuming that, projecting himself as a doer, thereby he is becoming enjoyer or sufferer of the karma palas. Right? So this aspect of the cycles, right from cycles to the Prakriti's nature's natural actions, how they have been misattributed, assumed, misidentified to be the individual's own actions, thereby suffering is coming. Soka and moha are being but assumed in the pure soul of the individual. Then comes all the rest of the story. So what happens is, to realize this, what Bhagavan is telling, what is he saying? So that is where all the karma yoga, once Sankhya yoga is over, Sthita Prajna's lakshanas have been told by Bhagavan. So teaching is over. Means every time, every yoga is told, Rishada yoga is over, actually teaching is over. One way. Okay, this is what you are. So I said, I want to fight, I wanted to see. He has shown, okay, this is what you want to fight. Then Arjuna gets confused, saying that I am now confused, I don't know Sadhumam Prapannam. So he goes, gets under the lotus feet of the Guru. Guru directs him, no, you have to fight. It is not that, it is not your dharma. If you don't fight, dharma is not established. If you fight only, dharma is established. Again, he tells everything with logic. So he always gives the highest reality and he applies the logic and yukti. Shruti and yukti both are set by Bhagavan. Then finally he says, okay, you are saying jnana is great, sthita prajna is great, everything, looking at everything as equal, so food is not yours, eating is not yours, nothing is yours. So you don't need to fight, I don't need to fight. Why are you putting me back into fight? Another confusion is raised. But this confusion is not in the teaching of Guru. Confusion is in the understanding of the Sishya. So he takes that opportunity, again explains the Karma Yoga. And at the end of it, another question comes up from Arjuna. Right? So what we are, at every question, what happens in this science of Bhagavad Gita, there is a very clear explanation given. How and where this question has come. And how Bhagavan is going to treat this question. He takes that as an opportunity, again explains an important aspect of this yoga. So not necessarily everybody need to study all this every word by word and understand. Who has to do that? A guru has to do that. Because for all different types of students that are coming, one yoga, one method, one particular practice need to be given. So, Guru need to understand everything in this 700 slokas of this. But as a seeker, what I should do? This is my second question. As a seeker, I should focus on exact my part or where I am getting stuck. So, should I use Karma Yoga? Obviously, everybody should use Karma Yoga. Use in the sense, so basically, the moha has to go, soka has to go. Soka and nashte moha smurtir ladva. So finally we should reach that stage. So that is the end of the teaching. When is the teaching over? When seeker realizes that my moha is removed, my soka is gone, karishye vachananta. Whatever you have said, I have understood what I am supposed to do, and I will continue to do that. So we have to reach that that particular point. So to do that, what is causing moha? That moha need to be removed. Attachment. So kamayesha, krodhesha, rajoguna samudbhavaha. So how that happens? Again coming back to the science. Every moment, there is a wonderful discussion again between quantum physics to Newtonian physics. What will happen? So basically what happens is these three gunas, if we look very deeply into these three gunas, Sapta Rajas Tama Guna, where they are not, they are everywhere. So even if you go from whole of the galaxy, all the three gunas are there. For example, if we take the universal, like even our Earth system, Earth, Sun and Moon are there, all these things defining the time, they are there. Earth is staying in its orbit. It is the Tamoguna. Earth is not going away wherever it wants. Oh, Sun is holding the Earth in the orbit. So it is that guna is demonstrated there. Okay. Then Earth is being given some light and heat. Sattva-guna, Rajoguna are coming there. So Sattva-guna, Rajoguna, Tamoguna is there in the earthly system or the Navagrahas of the system. And also you go into the deep into an atom. There is a nucleus where there is a neutron, proton and electron. And there are holes where then one orbit is not having sufficient electrons that will become a hole and it will allow the flow or the dynamism of the electricity, electronics. All the electrons will go in. So there is a statically holding nature, there is a dynamically moving nature. Both are in the Sattva Rajas Tama, these three gunas, the nature of these three gunas, these three are established. Who are controlling these three gunas? Is the Bhagavan. So all the way you go to galaxies, same Bhagavan is controlling it. All the way you go into the subatomic particles are okay, assumed whether it is real or not. If we go to that level also, there is only the Bhagavan. So where is this non-existing mudha or whatever this ignorance is arising from. These are some fundamental questions for every seeker. So I also had similar questions. But reading through some of these chapters, so some of the threads when we read, why we should do this Parayana? What is Parayana? That is my final point. Then I will establish that and I will close this. Paramayana. So this is my final path. So putting that emotion in us when studying this work, that is called Parayana. Parayana is not reading out, reading inside, Upamsu, whatever it is, trying to understand. No. There is no trying to understand, because understanding, Jnanam, Apohanancha, both are coming from the God only. Either I am understanding, misunderstanding, the capability behind understanding, misunderstanding is God only. Without God, understanding is not there. Without God, misunderstanding is also not there. So misunderstanding is equally important to the understanding, or understanding is equally important. So basically what it should happen, that experience of understanding. What? Yes. So the difference between knowing it intellectually, knowing a concept intellectually, that is paroksha jnana. Someone said, Shankaracharya said, Guruji said, Swami said, it is there in this book. So I think I have understood it. This is different from, yes, this is what it is. Right? Beyond all this, anybody said, who said, what said, all these things, this is what it is. Because of ignorance of this one fact, I have unnecessarily assumed so many things that I am doing, I am the karta, I am the bhokta, I am enjoying, I am suffering, I have this attachment, I have this detachment, I have this karma, blah blah blah, all those things are there. No. So we need to come to that realization by doing Parayana of this book. So how the Parayana gets established? As I said, one concept, it has been in threads, Sutra Mani, like multiple threads. It is like it has what you say, woven. It is not only beads. It is woven like one thread. It goes and woven in straight and horizontal, vertical lines, and it appears like a cloth for us. So we see a cloth which can obstruct my vision, everything is there. But if I go through that, I don't need to destroy this cloth. There is no need to destroying the cloth or whatever it is. What I need to do with this cloth is, I need to understand that there is only one string in it. There is no horizontal, there is no vertical, there is one obstructing the other, or one intervening with the other, or whatever it is. If I slowly take out, what will come out there is only one long string is which we are going to get. That one long string is the truth. It is always there, in whatever shape or form. So basically, if we go to this theory of relativity, quantum, time-space continuum, that is again the same point we have started with, right? There is a time-space continuum in which causation appears because of this, that, because of that, this, or whatever. Time-space causation is a triangle. Sri Vidya they know what is the triangle, upward triangle, downward triangle, and those multiple triangles are there, they are going up, going down. So each triangle is having three vertices, right? So, but what will happen? It encloses the thing, but the enclosure is not real. So-called enclosure is not real. It only gives a time-space continuum in which this earth, sun, moon, or the atom, subatomic particle, whatever particle, energy gets enveloped into the atom, or the atom releases the energy, atomic energy back into energy. Energy has no mass has no energy, but it seems to assume mass, it seems to remove mass from there. Whole of this is happening in this thing called time-space continuum, this thread which we are talking, that reality. That nature of that reality has been discussed time and again in various places in this book. It's basically Bhagavad Gita is, you look for anything, it is there in it. It's not just saying because we have to say, because every word has a very deep meaning, and every word, the way it gets, same discussion, same question. Question is same. What is good to me, you tell me. Krishna again says, Jnana is great, but you have to do the karma. So why I have to do the karma is question keep coming back. Answer is, you are not doing the karma. Prakriti, Krishna's Prakriti, for example, has a higher Prakriti which is Jiva Bhuta inside, and divided eightfold Prakriti, 5 elements and 3 gunas. So put together there is a divided Prakriti and undivided Prakriti. These two Prakritis continue to interact. So whatever is happened, whatever is happening, whatever will happen, everything is part of that same time space thread continuum that is there. So that is the final Jnana Yoga that is established. You will take the law of mass and energy conversion coming together, that no energy is lost, no mass is created, neither no mass is lost, no energy is created. So whatever is there, okay, nasato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate sataha, ubhayorapi drushtontah anayoho tattvadarshibhi. So finally what the tattvadarshis, they are not tattva understanders, they are the tattva realizers. So whoever is realizing the tattva, what they are seeing is, there is no asat ever came into existence or ever came into the manifestation. No manifestation which is not true, okay, which is there. But these two are also in the same time space continuum of Krishna, or whatever we call it as. That is his Vishwarupa, which in 11th chapter we have seen. Time, space, everything going into, coming out, emerging, jnana, everything is there into that. So the Parayana, the final point I wanted to establish is, for these all 17 years I have been doing the Parayana of this book. Every time I read one piece of it, one description in English, and maybe try and reconcile that with what Shankaracharya has said or what Sadasiva Brahmendra said in the Yoga Sutra. So there are two things which made me like kind of, this is a very fine blend of yoga and Vedanta. Sadasiva Brahmendra has written one very expert explanation of Yoga Shastra is called Yoga Sudhakaram. Yoga Sudhakaram is, I don't know, it is kind of in the Yoga Shastra, explanations of Yoga Shastra, that is the highest realized, but the Sadasiva Brahmendra has experienced it and wrote. So basically it is an experiential revelation of what is yoga. And Vedanta is Bhagavad Gita. But in this book, we see both the practical aspects of Yoga Sudhakaram, or whatever is the yoga of the yoga, and the scientific aspects of the Vedanta in this. It is a very fine blend of Yoga Sudhakaram and Gita Bhashyam of Shankaracharya. So again it is written for the modern educated people like me. So that way I am so blessed, I can say, coming here, Guru pulling me here, giving me this book. So again, we can't thank any beyond. This is part of the same game. I am supposed to be here, I am supposed to be talking, you are all supposed to be hearing. But making that happen by the Hamsashramam management committee and all the Guru's grace is ever visible here. Hoping that Guru's grace helps every one of you, the seekers, to go through that realization and not have any soka and moha, get the highest goal of the life through this Yoga Vedanta philosophy given by the Swasti. Om Namo